to the male perspective. Real talk for men with your host, Jason Gray, co-host, Willie LeGrand Jr. And we got the panel in the house. We got Don E. Miller in the house. We got Ron Robinson in the house, looking all Dapper Dan here. All of us are looking Dapper Dan, all crisp, ready to perform. And I tell you, it's been like a minute since the last time we were here. I tell you, we had lots of fun. I tell you, we're about to dive into our subject here. Today we're going to talk about anger or forgiveness. Hey, you guys are quiet here. I just gave the introduction. What's up, guys?
What's happening with you, Jason? It's good to be back with you. Glad that you back on the scene. And we missed you last time, but we held it down. Thank the Lord. And we're looking forward to what we're going to discuss today, and being a blessing to the listeners. And Willie, Don, let's strap up and get ready. And bring this heat wave. I know it's hot outside in certain places, but let's get ready to bring this heat wave as it relates to the subject matter at hand.
Absolutely. Let's talk about it. We're going to talk about anger or forgiveness. Man, a lot of men out there are dealing with anger issues, and they don't know about forgiveness. So, this is a subject that we can just dissect and tear it apart. It's a deep subject. I don't even think one show would be able to cover this.
Right.
But it's a deep subject.
Yeah.
It's good to be here again this week. Welcoming all our YouTubers and 106liveradio.com listeners. Glad to have you all with us today, tuning in. This is going to be a great day, a great show. And the subject matter, again, is anger or forgiveness, which means that we have a choice in which way we decide to go. It's kind of interesting, too, because I've been angry this morning. I got kind of angry, then I got angry once I got here, too, because... But it's really interesting. The things that happen in the course of our lives bring about certain and different attitudes. And with those different attitudes, it make us respond certain ways. What we have to do is to be able to control that and not allow it to control us, speaking in terms of anger right now. So what we need to do is be very attentive to our actions. Somebody cut us off while we're driving, we get angry. Call that road rage. Somebody disrupts us our day when we're doing certain things, we get angry at that too. And we call it disrespect. But there are so many different terms to anger, so many different behaviors and reactions to the things that are done. So we have to really be mindful of that word, anger, and that behavior, because it could bring forth different kinds of actions or reactions. And then on the other hand, we have that word forgiveness and action. And the adjective, I believe it is forgiveness, and it's something that we need to do not only for others, but most of all for ourselves. And with that in mind, we will get to that later on during the show. But since we're talking about anger, one of the things I did take the liberty to do was to remember or to bring to mind what the definition of the word anger is. When we think anger, we just think about somebody hurting our feelings or something that is done. But Webster says a feeling of extreme displeasure, terrible pain, affliction, rage, explosive emotion, which also gives about a definition of resentment or ill will as a result of being wronged. It could be, resentment could be done directly to us or indirectly, or some may imagine. So we have to be careful about how we usually respond again in anger. Indignation is something unjust or unworthy. Now, is it justified by the way that we treat somebody because of what we do or how we feel about what they did or may have said? Well, that's up for discussion, and we're going to talk about that. And then that other word is forgiveness, a pardon, the act of forgiving. forgiveness, just that one word right there, that's the only definition that I saw in Webster. But also, what I did is looked up the word forgive: to excuse for a fault or offense, to renounce anger or resentment, to free the offender without demanding punishment. Now, we know that whenever someone get angry, we demand a punishment for what they've done. Somebody got to pay for it, for the anger that they've caused us. So, but then that word forgiveness, it allows us that opportunity to show grace and mercy, which was showed unto us. And that was only through Jesus Christ. All right, gentlemen.
Interesting that we having this dialogue about anger. I'm constantly always looking at emotions, and anger is a real emotion. But the catch to the piece of anger is not so much getting angry; is what you do with your anger. Is that anger after you feel what you feel? Is it productive or counterproductive? Is it healthy or is it unhealthy? There's nothing wrong with getting angry, but what you do with the anger is so important. And what we finding today is that individuals don't know how to manage their emotions. They're allowing their emotions to manage them versus them and managing their emotions. So when you start talking about anger, it's more of, do you think before you react, or do you react before you think? And that's where we get into the problem piece, is that are we really thinking through that anger versus reacting to that anger? And how you react determines whether it has been a productive or counterproductive reaction. So I believe that we need to spend more time thinking versus reacting. And I find that when we talk about anger, you find a lot of people reacting but not thinking through.
Right. But see, anger and forgiveness. Notice that. So anger. What we got so many questions we could ask. What causes anger? Why did you become angry? Of course, from a biblical perspective, we know it says, "Anger, but sin not." So, and then Paul writes in Galatians chapter 5, like, is a work of the flesh. Anger is a work of the flesh. So, why do you become angry? Then at the same time, just keeping it from a biblical perspective, like we're commanded, it says, "Fathers, provoke not your children to wrath." So that lets me know now that even as a believer, that I can behave in such a way that provokes one to wrath, that provokes one to lash out. And so we can all say turn the other cheek, but how many more times? But if I remain in this environment, if I remain in an environment that is not conducive for my well-being, then it's natural for me to respond out of anger. Whether it's you violated me, you violated my child, you violated my wife, my spouse, and now what you expected me to do, whether you disrespected me, spit in my face, all of these things. And I think it's such a wide range of the way anger manifests, and it's based on the individual themselves. Kind of back to a couple of weeks ago, we were discussing becoming a better me. Well, because especially when you've been a person that you get angry, oh, he got a temper. Oh, don't piss him off. Oh, don't get him mad. All of that stuff. And then later on, as you mature and you grow in life, you'll hear the old people saying, "Oh, I remember what Willie used to do. I remember, boy, Willie, that can't be the same Willie. God must be real," because they experience and they watch your growth. So I think we all have had the opportunity and continue to have the opportunity to grow to where we don't allow our anger to control us, or necessarily someone else control us when we lash out and get angry, and we give them permission to control us because we allow what they say to get us to that point, to get us to boiling point. And then so we got so many ways I think we can attack this anger issue, but then we got so many ways with forgiveness, because so many times people become angry because of unforgiveness. And then at the same time, if right or wrong, Don, that transcends down. And
Oh,
next
yes.
next thing you know is daddy reacting and now taking that on his kids based on what his daddy did or didn't do. and where he was angry with them and never forgave his daddy. Now you didn't go through the process of becoming whole, and now look how you treating your kids.
Right.
Well, all that now, on the flip side of that, all that is not because of the way that the parent treated you or you not forgiving them. It could be because sometimes that you holding that anger in to a certain point to where now they the reciprocal or they the receiver of your anger. Now, there are some cases, I'm not discounting what you're saying, but what I am saying is that it can't be blamed on harbored emotions or feelings that we've gotten from somewhere else.
Right. So now when you say parents can't, I think, of course, we all get to a point where, okay, you can't be 30 years old still blaming mom and daddy.
Well, that's
But-
what I'm saying.
right.
That's what you just almost what you did when you said. So now here it is because of a feeling that or something that happened to you while you was younger. Your dad tore your tail up, or your mother, whichever one it was. Then here it is now because you didn't deal with the way that you felt that they should have treated you.
Right.
Then here it is now you responding to your child the same way.
But
That's
if,
all I'm saying.
But if I don't come seek counseling, if I don't seek to grow in this broken area, then at 30 I'm gonna be mad.
Well, but does that mean you take that brokenness out on that child? It's because that's what it sounds like you're saying. You're
Well-
broken because of the way that you were treated.
Well, the thing about it is that what the notion is, Don, if I'm right, tell me if I'm right or wrong. Hurt people.
Hurt people.
So now this is the thing. We can't choose the consequences of and the reaction of sin, basically. Choosing to walk in that. We can't choose the consequences and not justifying it at all. But once again, hurt people. So if a father doesn't come into the knowledge that I need to be whole and I need to go through the process, whether it's medication, whether it's whatever, and get evaluated to see, then if he's only going to do what he's familiar with.
So, question. The way that a person disciplined their child, just for instance, I'm just going to ask, how were you disciplined growing up?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Ain't no need saying right now. My mom and dad, they might still come after my mom and dad.
Well, see,
Ain't
now,
no need to ask you how I was disciplined.
see,
Yeah.
Well, see, that's what I'm saying.
That might have a lot of folks saying, you know what? I don't want to be bothered with it. I don't ever want to see his mom. Nah, because once again, I can understand hurt people. People.
So because you may have been just because you may have been hurt, being disciplined growing up, so now you hurt your child.
No, because
That's my point.
So hold on, wait up. But my testimony is, I went through the process to where I talked with God and said, "You're gonna have to make sure you heal me, put everything in me necessary for me not to raise my child this way, for me not to be this way with my child. So therefore, if the dish is dirty, I don't feel that's a beat down."
See, sometimes we duplicate generational behavior, and sometimes we want to use what our parents had, and sometimes my parents, that's all they had, and then their parents, that's all they had. But when you learn new stuff, you got to implement new stuff. We living in a day and time where parents are beating their kids when they're angry. Matter of fact, they're not beating their kids, they're actually injuring their kids. And the injury that we talk about a lot of times, we see the physical, but we don't see the emotion, the mental pieces that happens through that. And that hurt comes from where that anger can be really related as some form of trauma that they even been through.
Right.
So you can find that because mama beat me, you beating your kids and all that. And when we look at that, you beating kids when you angry, things can happen. You can end up pulling a kid arm out of place. You can end up hitting the kid in such a fashion that causes some injury. So I believe we got to learn how to manage our emotions. That's an emotional piece. And with it being unmanaged, you're going to end up having some problems.
Right.
Just the bottom line.
So Willie, my question to you, it seems like, and which I totally understand, because I know how we flow, but you more so come across as if, okay, that happened, like, get over it. You 30 years old, you can't be such this and that. And I understand that perspective, because once again, if you come from that, bruh, you man up, you suck it up, you do what's right and all of that stuff but at the same time, we got 4 different generations. We got baby boomers, Gen X, millennials, Gen Zs, 4 different mindsets, 4 different perspectives on dealing with this issue. So I know a lot of times old schools would be like, shoot, back in the day, this how we as men handle it. But if we don't present a way, because back then, we didn't go to doctors, we didn't go to therapy, we didn't seek out.
Was that right? That's the key. It may seem like it was right, but you got people today don't even deal with their parents, man. They siblings because of what happened during their childhood. That's trauma, man.
Right.
That's correct. To address what Ron said, no, I'm not that type of person to say, well, get over it. Certain situations, certain things, we speaking in terms of discipline now. No, I understood why and what was happening to me. I understood the repercussions of what it was that I was doing and had done. And years ago, I used to call it, I tease with my mama now, say, yeah, if we could have done what the little kid did back in the early 80s about divorcing their parents because they got a whipping down in Florida.
Right.
I said, Mama, what you doing was kind of classified as child abuse.
Right.
But looking at it, we feel that way as children. We feel that way because we being hurt.
Right.
And we feel as the treatment that we get is unnecessary.
Right.
We're going to always feel that way when we're being punished.
Right.
I don't care who you are
Oh,
or
right.
what you believe. So that's the thing to answer your question. But no, that's not the type of person I am. Like certain things, okay, enough time has passed.
Right.
You've dealt with this. We've dealt with this. We sought understanding and counseling with this. Now let that thing go so we can move on.
Right.
So now, yeah, counseling is fine. It has its place. Everybody needs somebody. And if we have somebody,
What it said, counselor has his place.
but it does. I mean, because you're just speaking in terms of that. If we need somebody to help us or to talk with us about what we're dealing with, then that's what we do. We seek out Don. And he's able to give us the information and help us, point us into a direction that might be able to help us later on, that we don't be offended or offend someone in our actions.
We've dealt with a lot of trauma. I think that when you deal with even us as men, as men, we've dealt with a lot of trauma, and I believe sometimes we react to trauma in such a way that's not productive. Go out at school, and so sometimes the parent feel as though, hey, you embarrassed me, so because you embarrassed me, use this rod or use this stick or use whatever I use to get some control. But that's traumatic because you're still talking about that kid. You can break that kid's spirit.
Rod, spoil the child.
Well, you say okay, and so we was raised. A lot of us was raised on spare the rod, spoil the child, right? So is it the rod from a physical sense of lashes on the back? Because the rod of correction can be nope. You as you know, the new version of timeout, or let's talk about it. And now stern discipline can be vocal at the same time, to where you understand, because versus lashes on the back, stencil cord, cutting a little bamboo tree out, go pick your own switch to see which one you want to get tore up with, all that stuff like that. So now, and been there, done that. I told you once again, I don't want to talk about my childhood. They might FBI might be knocking on somebody's door like, hey, is this true?
I'll hold till y'all get here.
So now, like, we now wait, and here it is. We'll go to 20-year class reunion. 20-year class reunion. We see all of the effects of how this hurt this child, who this hurt, who couldn't handle it. We see all of these things here, and so now you got to ask yourself: did we make the nation better by using these methods? We may have gotten order in our particular environment, in our home, but did it make the next generation better?
Yeah, I can't hit my mama, but I can hit a kid at school.
Exactly.
I could curse a teacher. I can't curse my mama. I can do certain things in the street. So I believe it's so important. And I go back to what I originally said. When we get in caught up into this piece of anger, are you managing your emotions, or are your emotions managing you? And the key is, look at what happens when you do not control or get to a place where you can manage your emotions, how you see things come out of it that's negative. I mean, the violence in the street, the road rage, the going in, people fighting on airplanes now, man, about mass wearing and having these things that happen all in the streets, man. But it's because anger is not being dealt with appropriately.
That's a whole different story right there. But You know what? Let's put a pin on that. We got to take a quick break. But I tell you, I mean, this is a subject that, you know, we have to continue to prolong this, you know, and come back to it at a later time also because it's so deep.
Right.
It's such a deep topic. But let's take a break here. And when we come back, we will dive back into it.
Yes, sir.
Broadcasting live from Atlanta while serving the entire globe. It's the fastest growing radio on the web. It's 106liveradio.com.
I wonder who that is, honey.
Hugs with family.
Grandma and Grandpa's here.
Get over here.
Getting back to the moments we miss starts with getting informed.
I miss you so much, Grandpa.
Get the latest info about COVID-19 vaccines at getvaccineanswers.org. It's up to you. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
When you're unemployed, it can seem like there's no way out. But with the right tools, suddenly it all just clicks. Develop new skills and find your path to a new career at findsomething.org. A message from the Ad Council.
1 in 3 adults has prediabetes. 1 in 3. That means it could be you, your football buddy, your football buddy, or you, your best man, your worst man, you, your dog walker, your cat jogger. While 1 in 3 adults has prediabetes, with early diagnosis, prediabetes can be reversed. Take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its Prediabetes Awareness Partners.
I think it's just vapor. Vaping is safer than smoking, isn't it?
One vape pod has as much nicotine as 1 pack of cigarettes. Get your head out of the cloud. Talk to your kid about vaping. Visit talkaboutvaping.org. Brought to you by the American Lung Association and the Ad Council.
The Chef's Zone, culinary professionals. Every Wednesday and Friday from 2 to 4 p.m. Executive producer Anthony Denard presents The Chef's Zone, showcasing chefs, not just here in Atlanta, but globally to expose their culinary skills to others around the world. The Chef's Zone broadcasting live Wednesday and Friday from 2 to 4 p.m. Hosted by Chef Couture on 106liveradio.com. Don't forget to join us in the zone.
Steven.
Who said that?
Me, down here.
Ugh, what are you, a yellow booger?
I'm a banana slug, Steven.
What are you doing in my room?
I'm your sense of adventure. It's been a long time since we've had an adventure in the forest.
Mom took me to the forest last year.
I'm a slug, Steven. It took me a long time to get here.
You're right. I should get out.
Yeah, the forest is not that far away.
Hey, Mom!
Come to the forest where the more adventurous you lives. Check out discovertheforest.org for cool places nearby. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
To some, a baby's babbling doesn't mean much, but it does. Especially if there's no babbling at all. Little to no babbling by 12 months or later is just one of the possible signs of autism in children. Learn more at autismspeaks.org. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
Tom has been a teacher for over 40 years. One day, I think one of the students had asked the question and he didn't remember the answer. And I also noticed that he was letting his class out earlier than they were supposed to let out. I was really starting to worry.
Levi and I talked about how it would change our lives, but he was there beside me.
When something feels different, it could be Alzheimer's. Now is the time to talk. Visit alz.org/ourstories to learn more. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Many of people start something great in their 40s and 50s. Getting your retirement savings on track is no different. Go to aceyourretirement.org and in 3 minutes, you'll get personalized tips to help boost your retirement savings. That's aceyourretirement.org. A message from AARP and the Ad Council.
Are you thinking of changing your marketing strategy? 106 Live Radio is the solution you need to promote your goods and services. We are offering special advertising rates on our fast-growing radio network. We can also help you create an audio commercial or a website banner that fits your business needs. It is just that simple. Visit our website at 106liveradio.com for details.
Bringing you the best shows in music 24/7 on your favorite radio. It's 106 Live Radio.
You're listening to The Male Perspective, real talk for men.
It's real life today. Life is happening fast. we invite all family and friends to join us on Real Life Today, hosted by Curtis and Bobby Minter, every Sunday from 4 to 5 p.m. right here on 106inspiration.com, powered by 106 Live Radio.
This is The Male Perspective, a talk show that pertains to manhood. Are you ready to dive into a whole with a diverse panel of men? The discussions are purposefully centered around topics that people often think about but are typically uncomfortable to talk about. I present to you The Male Perspective and its panel of real men, hosted by Jason Gray and Willie Legrand as co-hosts.
Welcome back. Welcome back to The Male Perspective. Real talk for men. Gosh, we are having such a good time here, just talking about anger or forgiveness. And we're going to dive back into the subject right now. I'm going to get back in and let's finish let's begin where we left off at before the break, guys.
What I want to do right quick is also welcome the callers to call us in at 404-464-8785. Feel free to voice your opinion, ask any question. That's 404-464-8785. And we are talking about anger or forgiveness. A very powerful subject, a very interesting one too, based upon a lot of things right now which will be done or said a lot of times. We take it because of some of our past experiences. And sometimes it's hard to get away from those experiences that we've had growing up. Some of us may have been scarred. Some of us may not know how to deal with how we've been treated or how to get over what was done to us. And it's just interesting. We have counselor help that we can seek out, or we have people that we could trust. Sometimes it could be a minister or a pastor. It could be someone that we really respect. But at all costs, get some help if you have anger, as some people say, anger issues. It's a real thing, and it affects your mental overall health, especially how we respond to people. So
that's a good thing. So get help. How?
Well, I just said there's some counseling we can receive. There's some people that we trust that will give us valuable information, or
So I understand that. Now, once again, the reason I came like that because you get a lot. We'll get a lot of people that say, "Bump that, them folks ain't trying to help nobody and everything." Man, ain't nobody got time for that. Back to when we said why men don't go to the doctor, why we don't such and such. Okay, why we don't go to the Dr. Don, the psychologist, the one that now can deal with the mental side of what we're struggling with. Why is it that we have a problem that recognize you need help? You breaking walls, you breaking windows, you always snapping off, folks scared of you. You wonder why you can't keep a job. What is going on that you can't get the help, or at the same time, you got some areas that the help is not available?
Well, to say you can't get the help, I understand sometimes the location, whatever, but if the first thing, somebody has to realize that they need help.
Right.
If I'm right, I don't care what you say, I am right. But now there's something that has to be recognized. Okay, why are people always responding to me the way they are responding? Why are they dodging me? Why they just don't have nothing to say to me? Okay, so now, to become a better me, as we talked about last week,
right?
Or not last week, but the last show, is that we have to first realize that there's an issue.
Right.
And then if we realize an issue that has occurred, we recognize the infliction or pain or resentment or rage that we're in sometimes, causing people to feel the way they feel, or sometimes even us to feel that we feel the way we feel. When we are angry, we feel that anger.
Right.
We realize something ain't right, but sometimes we just don't want to.
Right.
So now, the reason why people might not want to get counseling other than the fact that they're prideful.
Well, you do. With men, we got a lot of ego we have to go through before we realize we having a problem. we'll deny something and we'll try to find ways to rationalize it. But look at the counterproductive things that's happening. And a lot of times we will try to make a wrong right. Wrong is always going to be wrong. The only way you can make a wrong right is just by doing right. And I know that sounds confusing, but we've allowed certain things to be such a way where is wrong, and it's just wrong, and it is no way around it. So you have to look at your life and look at what's going on for you to say, hey, I need to go talk to someone. One of the main things I try to do as a therapist is to take away the stigma of, is counseling wrong? Is something, am I crazy? All those kind of negative pieces when it comes down to counseling. But you got to look at it this way. If you injure your leg, you're going to go see someone to get that fixed. If you have if you had a heart issue, you're going to go talk to someone about your heart. Well, when you have mental health issues that are preventing you from functioning in a rational way, you may need to go sit down and talk to somebody. It's just that simple.
But once again, I was told you don't tell the business going on in your house.
Yeah, I know. That's what you've been told, but you've been living with that and you've been suppressing those emotions in such a way. Now, when you want to deal with those emotions, you're dealing with those emotions in a counterproductive way. Self-medicate, mean drugs, alcohol, things of that type. You taking it out on other people versus you dealing with it. You suppressing the emotion. So you're right. That was something we were told growing up. Don't tell nobody what's going on in this house.
Right.
Don't tell nobody what's going on. So you suppressing how you feel, but you're going out here beating people, running over people, acting out on the job because you haven't had a chance to really learn how to express those emotions. Just like with men, we socialize different. A man fall, hey, suck it up. Suck it up. Right. Don't cry. A man don't cry. A man's supposed to be hard. A man don't supposed to show his emotions. So men who have grown up in that manner been sucking up their emotions all this time. And so once they let those emotions out, they let them out in a negative manner, even in relationships with their wives, with their friends, with whomever, on the job, because they never were able to express how they really felt.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that. Growing up as a child, that was something that was just never taught. It's like going to a counselor was like taboo. You just didn't do that stuff. You kept your business at home and you dealt with it, but we really didn't know what we were dealing with. We thought that the discipline that we received was out of love, and maybe the intentions were for love reasons, but the methods of the discipline,
it's the methods, was
not right. And as we get older and we examine our lives and we say, okay, yeah, the beatings, they set us straight. We all have our emotions that we have to deal with because those are painful childhood memories, even though mom and dad was disciplining us in the way that they thought was best. Right. Now 30 years later, we have to deal with that. And then when it's time to discipline our kids, it is so easy because it's alert behavior. This is what my mom did. This is what grandma did.
Right. And that's what we're familiar with. And so now here's the thing, because I'm pretty sure there are thousands of people in this situation. So when you have what is deemed or labeled as abusive parents, or the environment is just an abusive environment, there are some people to where these kids, you're accustomed to it, but others look at it like, man, y'all need help over there. So next thing you know, it's like, cause we loud, we physical, we whatever, man, we fight, whatever, we break windows, we break a glass across your head. So now here's the thing. When you have a house full of kids, 5, 6, 7 kids, and this is the environment, how do you sit back? Who comes? Because everybody's silence of the lambs. Nobody saying that. It's the elephant in the room. And so you're getting beat with this testicles. School with a lot of people, that school was actually the best. That was the best place for them. They felt relief. Like, what can I do not to get back home until it's time to eat dinner and go to bed? So how we get the help to those people now? And I know DFACS is there, and I'm not saying all that stuff will come and breaking homes up, but at some point in time, because a lot of these families are right there in the church. They're right there in the church. And so nobody feels we can override your will. We can take over for you. We can go over there and make change come in your life. You got to want it. But man, you got kids from the ages of 2 years old all the way to 16. Like, man, they suffering.
We have to become more realistic. We have to be more engaged in the lives of our neighbor. We have to be more engaged in protecting and helping our children navigate. You have grown individuals. I'm not talking about just children, but men and women who are still dealing with some childhood trauma that they never been able to talk about, but they took it into other relationships that they've been in. Broken marriages, broken homes. They don't know how to deal with their own children. To be open about it. We have to talk about this, not just in the schoolhouse, in our church synagogues, wherever we can get a dialogue. We talk about people dealing with their emotions, people talking through, parents working through processes to deal with their kids in a different format. Because again, that kid is going to get older. So all that beating you doing one day may turn around, and this kid now don't know what to do but come back at you in a physical manner.
Right. And I think, go ahead, Willie, go ahead.
Now, one of the things I've heard different kids and talked to different kids, and one of the things that I've realized from their situations, their anger stems a lot from them saying that they're not being heard. Mm-hmm. They're not given a voice. And when you're not given a voice, then back what you were saying earlier off the air, because of them not being heard, as Don said before also, that their actions come out in different ways. Because they're not heard, their frustration and anger come out. It's going to school and hitting somebody. I can't hit my mom or my dad, so, okay, you said something wrong. You scuffed up my shoes. So there's a punch in the nose.
Right.
So here it is now, because they're not being heard. I know I keep saying that, is that their reaction now is based upon something that may have happened in the past. Counseling is great. And the opportunity of giving those counselors, like in some schools, I talked to a young lady the other day. She said this about, she had mentioned something that she was going through and wanted to do concerning her education. I said, well, talk to your counselor. Well, they say I can't do this and I can't do that. I said, well, get you another counselor, because somebody need to hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
Because it's justified. If one doesn't fix or help you get something done, you go to someone else. Just like a doctor, you get a second opinion.
Right.
That first opinion may not always, they may just be there for a check, right, or bide in time so they can retire. Their interests aren't conducive to some of the children's desires. And so if you're not being heard and you get angry, your parents are getting angry, or those that's raising you are being responsible for you legally, they getting angry because you're not listening to them either. So now here it is, everybody's angry. There's no resolution. Right. Somebody's going to get hurt somewhere. So, right. And if we're thinking sometimes, I don't know, y'all probably walk on water, but I've been in places sometimes in anger, things happen, I see something or something, right, sometimes seen beyond your control, you start thinking stuff that you know you shouldn't be thinking.
Of course.
And you're not worried about the consequences because you feel you can get out on bail.
Right.
But the thing is that something has to give.
You're talking to me now.
Well, yeah, I was, but anyway.
In other words,
talking about we walk on water, man.
Well, yeah, you do.
So I fully understand that. So now here's the thing. Remember, it says anger, but sin not.
Mm-hmm.
That's what Scripture says. Paul lets us know that in
That's
Ephesians.
True. Anger,
but sin not, meaning that it will automatically, because from a spiritual perspective, it's called a righteous indignation.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, like, it's cool to become angry with somebody in, like, you just continually operating in abuse. So counselors have that opportunity to let a righteous indignation rise up in them to say, I don't have to get physical with it, but I became so angry that it moved me to now implement this, or to seek this, or to actually seek out better rules, better application of the rules. Allow, what liberties do we have to actually go to that child's house to see? Because for some reason, remember, violence begets violence.
True.
So if I'm in a violent environment and now you scuff my shoes up, and here's the thing, I'm only thinking I'm gonna get beat if I come home with dirty shoes, because we poor and these shoes gotta last me. And so now I come and you just stuffed on my shoes and say, now what you gonna do about that? You little such and such.
This joker said, we po.
Yeah, he said we po. Now, but I understand what you're saying. There's, you angry. Right, my righteous thought is to get you right. It's a righteous thought.
Right.
I understand what you're saying, but I'm twisting it up a little bit.
Right.
Now, be angry and sin
No,
not.
you're still cracking up, aren't you?
Who called it
We
sin?
po.
Who called it sin? Okay, you're going to keep on doing it. You're going to keep on doing it. As a matter of fact, I spoke to a young man very recent. I said, wonder why is it that you got to talk to this person? I'm watching a TV program. Why is it this person got to use profanity when they talking to somebody? Why is they got to, grab a hold to them and say this to them and rough them up? He said, well, because sometimes that's the only way they learn. Is that right? So
Wow.
I got to treat you like an animal. I got to treat you like you ain't nothing.
Well,
I got to treat you that way in order to get to you.
But you conditioning people that way. That's a condition.
It's a
People
condition.
condition folk a certain way.
It's because I'm just saying. It's because I've seen a lot of stuff, man. Some people, but check this out. And the background wasn't from that kind of environment. But this is what they're understanding. Could it be the music? Could it be the videos that they're listening to make them get hard like this to where they're responding a certain kind of way now? Or this is the only thing they're going to hear?
It's all based on when kids come in this world, a good brain is a good brain. There's a form of innocence. What happens to all of us, we change based on what we have been exposed to.
That's
and
what I'm
how
saying.
we expose our kids have a lot to do with how our kids develop. So it goes back to, it's almost like when a kid start cursing. You tell me, I don't know how that kid learned that. Where did they get that from? But you cursing the kid out on a regular basis.
But then you may not. There may be something they saw.
Yeah, but no, it may be you too. It may be both. So my point of it is, though, when do we take accountability for some of the things that we're doing wrong? Right. And that's what we got to look at. Yeah, society, most of their teaching will be from home.
Right.
And if home is not set up in the right manner, if we're not doing certain things right at home, you can look for the world to train the kid. I mean, we got kids growing up by the TV. We got kids who spend their time on a computer and the parent isn't there. So we got to take some responsibility. Yeah, kids learn to curse out in the streets, but a lot of times they're getting that at home, man.
Right.
They're getting it at home.
When they can become comfortable, because you got to realize, if you grow up, the kid grows up in an environment, be like, I know y'all ain't playing that retarded rap music up in here. I know y'all ain't playing that mess. And then the rules was like, you can't cut hair, you can't do homework, you can't play pity pad, you can't play spades on a Sunday, you can't listen to that garbage, you better listen to the radio version. So if a child doesn't have those barriers, those parameters in place, then they feel they can say that, let alone mama will pop off in a minute and cussing the neighbors out, cussing folks out. You go to school and look, I got close friends that are school counselors. You got the mamas coming up to school with their gold tooth and them slippers on and pajama pants, cussing teachers out, chewing gum.
I saw some.
So now you're so in that sense there, as a counselor, man, I'm furious, because at the same time, I have parameters that I have to operate in. I have to have this goody two-shoe, Dr. Phil, Dr. whomever, and now you limiting my ability, or you causing me to have to rethink and be creative on how I'm going to reach this child, because this is the situation. No matter what a counselor says to that child in 9th grade, no matter how they encourage it, that child still ain't going home with that counselor. That child is still going back to that broken, crazy environment that's not conducive for what that counselor said to actually sink in.
And we got to reach out, man. Being a licensed therapist in the state, and I'm a mandated reporter. So if I see something that's going on, even in a counseling session, or a kid has a bruise or something, I have to report. And I remember this one particular time that this kid had went away for the weekend and came back home. And I was fine with the parent. Kid was fine. Where the kid had left, came home that weekend. Where he came home that weekend with bruises on him. Said that he had an altercation with another parent. The other parent that I was there, I said, hey, I got to report this. She was upset with me because I was reporting that the kid had some marks on it. That's my job. No, you don't have to say that. No, I do have to say
From
something.
another parent?
Oh yeah,
not his parent.
No, it was one. It was one of the family members.
So you dry snitching.
So I had to. I don't care about snitching, man. Y'all call snitching, but see, that's the problem in our community.
We don't.
We talk about snitching.
Yeah.
And snitches get stitches, and it's not about snitching. It's about protecting people. The
Saving
reason
a
why
life.
we have so much violence that go on in our communities a lot of times, nobody is opening their mouth.
Right.
A woman can be getting beat right next door, but nobody want to say nothing. A kid could be going through some stuff right down the street corner. Nobody want to say nothing. You see the kid going to school, half dressed. You see the woman with shades on in the wintertime, ain't no sun out, and something going on, but we don't say nothing. And then when we find out that kid is dead or that woman is hospitalized, oh man, I knew something was going over at that house. We don't say anything.
No.
Let's hold on. Let's put a pin on that here. We got to take a break here, but that's deep. So hold that thought. When we come back, we're gonna let you, Ron, share your thought here. So thank you for listening to 106 Live Radio. You're listening to The Male Perspective, Real Talk for Men. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to dive back into the topic.
Streaming live from Atlanta to a global audience on your favorite device. From Source of Wellness Media, we are 106inspiration.com.
Marvin, it's a new thing on 106 Live Radio. The Male Perspective. Some may consider this the male therapy, male empowerment, or even male bonding. However, the Male Perspective is a place where we discuss genuine subject matters that men face on a daily basis. With your host, a real and transparent man, Jason Gray, with co-host Willie LeGrand. Welcome to The Male Perspective.
I'm waving bye-bye. I'm pressing on. I'm moving on. Oh.
Broadcasting live from Atlanta while serving the entire globe. It's the fastest growing radio on the web. It's 106liveradio.com.
If you're worried your friend may be struggling, remember, you don't have to be there to be there.
You could say, how are you, or get a fake tattoo. You could ask with an app if it works for you. You could chat on the game, kick off your flip-flops. You could ask on your couch while you binge watch.
Whatever gets you talking.
Reach out to a friend about their mental health. Learn how you can help at seizetheawkward.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council, American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, and the JED Foundation.
If a natural disaster comes knocking, how prepared is your family? You can't just close the door on earthquakes, floods, or hurricanes and hope they go away. That's why it's important to make a plan now. Ready.gov/plan has the tools and tips you need to prepare your family for an emergency. So if disaster shows up at your doorstep, you'll be ready. Visit ready.gov/plan and make a plan today. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Hey, Dad, your prescription will be ready in just a minute. Hey, Dad, your laundry will be ready in just a minute. Dad, your lunch will be ready in just a minute.
Hey, honey, why don't you take a minute? When you help care for a loved one, you give them as much time as you can. But it's just as important to take time for yourself. AARP can help. Find free care guides to support you and your loved one at aarp.org/caregiving. That's aarp.org/caregiving. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
I think it's just vapor. Vaping is safer than smoking, isn't it?
One vape pod has as much nicotine as one pack of cigarettes. Get your head out of the cloud. Talk to your kid about vaping. Visit talkaboutvaping.org. Brought to you by the American Lung Association and the Ad Council.
The possibility of lung cancer can be pretty scary, especially if you're one of approximately 8 million current or former smokers at high risk. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know that now there's a breakthrough low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early, and it only takes 60 seconds. You stopped smoking. Now start screening. For an easy quiz to see if you're eligible, visit SaveByTheScan.org. It could save your life. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
We've all felt left out. And for people who move to this country, that feeling lasts more than a moment. We can change that. Learn how at belongingbeginswithus.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Cleft and craniofacial conditions affect thousands of infants, children, teens, and adults in the United States each year. Some are born with congenital anomalies, lip and palate, and life-threatening craniofacial conditions. Some are burned, others are injured in accidents and animal attacks, or diagnosed with various oral, head, neck, and skin diseases. To learn more about these conditions, including treatment options and other support networks in your area, please visit www.nccapm.org. This message is brought to you by The Chef Zone with host Chef Jay and Chef Couture, where they showcase chefs not just here in Atlanta, but from around the globe. You can catch them every Wednesday and Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. right here on 106liveradio.com.
Are you thinking of changing your marketing strategy? 106 Live Radio is the solution you need to promote your goods and services. We are offering special advertising rates on our fast-growing radio network. We can also help you create an audio commercial or a website banner that fits your business needs. It is just that simple. Visit our website for details.
Bringing you the best shows in music 24/7 on your favorite radio. It's 106 Live Radio.
You're listening to The Male Perspective, real talk for men. Welcome back to The Male Perspective, real talk for men. It's your host, Jason Gray, co-host Willie LeGrand Jr. We got Don, we got Ron. Before we left, Ron Ron was talking, and, he was digging in some deep topics here. So, Ron, why don't you tell the listeners what you were about to say? You had a thought on your mind. I say, hey, hold that thought until we come back.
Right. I think Willie, it was responding to Willie about, once again, just environments, the change, things that are changed, what brings about, individual recognizing what change needs to take place. But now at the same time, just like not justifying behavior based on the way you were raised. And, is a plethora of things that we can actually pinpoint to try to say, how do we deal with this anger? Where does it stem from? And what are the environments? So let's just take, for instance, like we were saying before, school counselors. I'm going to school. The environment that I'm at home, violence begets violence. So therefore, I'm acting out. I'm responding. You disrespect me. If you come from a dad that say, you don't let nobody punk you. You don't let nobody talk crazy to you. You straighten nobody down. But the counselors at school might not know daddy just did 10 years up the road, or daddy didn't been up the street, and now he kind of got that little prison yard mentality of, I got to represent, I got to sit back. And so therefore, the kid sees his mama being beat. He see the violence here, and now he goes to school and he's acting out this certain way. And counselors are limited on what they can say, what they can do. And no matter how a counselor, it causes a counselor to say, I become so angry, I moved to do something. But what can they do?
Well, they would be able to see some of the behaviors at school, and they can recommend programs and things for that kid, and even for that kid parent. They may even call that parent in during a teacher and parent conference to talk about what's going on in the home. And not only is it to help the kid, but it's to help the parent, because it's a twofold thing. If I help kid, I help the parent. If I help the parent, I help the kid. It's not about you getting in trouble. It's about getting you to get the help that you need. And again, sometimes we deny the help because we still under this mindset, I don't want nobody knowing my business. Well, newsflash, they know your business. When your kids come to school acting a certain way, a lot of times the kids are similar to the parent. I've seen where kids come to school and say, I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna get my mom. And the mom come to school and act just like the kid is acting at home, or the dad act just like the kid is acting at home. So the key is everybody need help. The parent need help, the child need help. So the purpose of it is that to get help. And sometimes help won't come at home until help come to the child, because the parent's still dealing with their own stuff. Right. I ain't got time. I got to work and all this and that. And they're frustrated. They're frustrated sometimes because, hey, dad may not be at home. You know, so I'm frustrated that I got to do all this by myself. I got to go to work. I got to come home. I got to cook. I got to clean. I got to do all these things. So some of their frustration is there. Right. And so they may be putting some of their frustration back on the kid, and the kid in turn coming to school frustrated. So we got a community of anger, but violence. When you start dealing with violence, it doesn't start just with the kid. It can be a whole community. So the community need to be educated. Right. About how to deal with anger, how to deal with forgiveness, the same thing that we're talking about. So it's a holistic approach. It's not just about the child. Sometimes the child is the way into the family because the family itself don't want to be exposed. But exposure is happening because the kid is learning this stuff from somewhere.
Right. So go ahead. You got something to say, Will?
I was going to just say that in that sense that's great because it could save a life. And a lot of times people don't want to go back to something I said earlier. People don't want to admit that they have an issue. They don't want to admit that they have a problem. Don said it earlier about ego. Men have egos. Everybody have egos, but a lot of times men feel that they have to project a certain kind of image in order to maintain their strength or maintain the respect in which they feel they deserve. Right. But that doesn't always turn out productive or conducive for a family environment because you kind of wind up beating somebody down.
Yeah.
Not
Vulnerability is a
physically.
strength. Vulnerability really is a strength. It's looked at as a weakness, but it's really a strength. But we don't. Being vulnerable means I'm exposing my emotions, and can you deal with that? Can everybody deal with my emotions? Right. And I don't want to let that out. I have to stay strong, especially when you've been taught that.
Right. And I think, so for instance, take it from instance, I think counselors, you'll see that like you'll see counselors, you'll see people saying you could be at a cookout and you'll be like, oh, see, like them kids, something wrong in that whole house over there, and I don't even want to be bothered with them. But at the same time, you possess what's necessary for this child to receive the help. You have to shift your thinking to be able to understand, because sometimes counselors have to deal with their personality traits, their personality issues, the way they process information too, so that they can be what they can avail themselves to what and be what this child needs. So, like you say, if we sit back and next thing you know, if we do it amongst ourselves, be like, oh, that's them Smiths over there, boy, you already know you don't even want to go over there and fool with them. All of them thrown off. And next thing you know is if everybody got all of them thrown off perspective, then next thing you know is, man, nobody want to deal with them. You got to change your perspective as a counselor to know that you have the tools available for them.
Absolutely. I'm going to take a quick break, top of the hour break here. So when we come back, we're going to finish that.
106 R&B and throwbacks on 106 Live Radio. Atlanta's music leader.
Marvin, it's a new thing on 106 Live Radio. Perspective. Some may consider this the male therapy, male empowerment, or even male bonding. However, the male perspective is a place where we discuss genuine subject matters that men face on a daily basis. With your host, a real and transparent man, Jason Gray, with co-host Willie LeGrand. Welcome to The Male Perspective.
Place in my life, I'm waving bye-bye. I'm pressing on. I'm moving on. I'm great. Oh.
Welcome back. Welcome back to The Male Perspective, Real Talk for Men. I'm your host, Jason Gray. Got Willie LeGrand Jr. We got our panel here. We got Ron. We got Don. Man, we've just been going at it here with this conversation of anger or forgiveness. And there's a lot to talk about anger. I mean, we can go on and on and on. So let's finish our conversation. Ron, you were, again, in the middle of something. So I didn't mean to cut you off, man, but you know how it goes in radio.
Yeah, no, it's all good. So in essence, they're back to, once again, the environment. Like I was saying, counselors, because we sit back, we could be at a cookout, we can be at a function, and next thing you know is the issues come up, and then you'll hear, oh man, that house there, because I didn't talk to the mom, I didn't talk to the daddy, they all throwed off over in there. So now how these kids, you got two great kids, they're smart, they're bright, they got a great future. So now instead of rejecting helping them and just strictly sticking by the book and the rules and the principles, some way, somehow counselors got to be able to realize that they got what's necessary, and they got to insert themselves to be more aggressive in the ways that they're capable of doing, to be influential in that child's life, to be what that daughter needs, that son needs, to help give them just the necessary. Because if it's middle school, it's right at high school, that counselor may not even be in their life in 10 years, 15 years. So they're giving them something to get some traction, to get the wheels going in the right direction.
Well, we have to understand what school counselors are really set up to do. In elementary, you may see them more in doing things to refer kids to programs to help them process their emotions and do stuff like that. But when you start dealing with middle school, high school, you're dealing with a lot of instructions. You're dealing with academics. So that's what you got to get the right true value of what school counselors supposed to do. They can help usher in a mental health counselor, but their whole focus is guidance in reference to education, academics. So what we really need to do is get more licensed professional counselors that deals with mental health issues on school campuses, or those schools need to set up partnerships with agencies out in the community that provide mental health, that can come in and provide support. So if a kid is having a problem at school, a referral may need to go out to these outside agencies. So schools have to get their relationships with mental health even more tighter, because school counselors are overwhelmed already with just the academic portion. Right. So again, schools can't do everything, but they can be a catalyst for bringing pieces in, and they're looking for support. Really happen. And those schools counselors are very overwhelmed right now.
Right.
Definitely.
Because now we know students are having a hard time, children are having a hard time, but men right now are really struggling with a lot of things that's going on in society. This COVID has put a damper on a lot of mental issues concerning men trying to do something that they need to be doing or they're not doing. We've been talking about anger, and anger affects men in different ways. It affects everybody. But the thing too, what we also got to realize too, we're talking about anger or forgiveness. Now the point comes in, we're dealing with this anger. We know we got resentment, we got ill feelings, we've got rejection going on, which everybody is angry. We got nobody listening to us. So now that we know all these things, how do we get past that? How do we get into this forgiveness? Let me mention something too that I wanted to mention earlier concerning anger. There are effects that happen to your body when you deal with anger. It could cause heart disease, or it could cause you to have a heart attack or stroke. This anger or stress, they're so closely related, the word anger and stress, is that within 2 hours after you have been enraged or outraged in a anger bout, within 2 hours, you could have a heart attack or you could have a stroke. Chris Atkins of University of Wake Forest School of Medicine, This is one of the things that he found out. So when we are angry or we're stressing out about something, we got to remember it takes a toll on our body. Also, it weakens our immune system, where the body's not able to produce things that it needs to produce to keep you healthy, because you're producing now the wrong endorphins or castors, which weakens your immune system, or you're getting too many out there, which causes your body to not function as though it's supposed to. So we have to be careful about how we allow our anger to take control of us. Some people get so angry they have diarrhea, their stomach is upset, their head is hurting,
but you got
palpitations.
Yeah, you hear how you ever heard the old people say, you go ahead, you're gonna give yourself an aneurysm or something, getting angry like that. Always you're gonna bust a blood vessel in your head if you don't calm yourself down.
That's where that stroke comes in. That's the stroke part.
Call that deadly emotions.
Yeah. And so that's what that anger does. So now we realize we got something going on that needs to be corrected. We got something that's going on that needs to be addressed, and it has been addressed. We got counselors, we got therapists. Most insurance coverages gives you an opportunity to use get outside assistance for this kind of anger.
Right.
So now we got that taken care of. Now how do we get past this? We got to go into forgiveness.
Right. And see,
now,
go ahead.
Now, forgiving, okay, because when we don't forgive, well, forgiveness comes in because we realize something is going on. The forgiveness is not going to help that person that's wronged us per se.
Right.
Because first of all, we have to realize when we don't forgive, when we continue walking in anger, we're hurting us. We're allowing that emotion to control us, as you mentioned earlier. We're allowing that to take precedence over everything else, over our well-being and over our health. So, okay, now I got to forgive this person. That don't mean you're forgetting it.
All right.
You're just going to try not to allow that effect or that anger to possess you again. That's when it comes in, be angry and sin not.
Right.
Because when we sin again with that anger, it brings about continuous behavior. You get mad at me, then I'm going to do something back to you. Now we're going to forgive. So now what we have to do is say, okay, I can't let this continue to rule my life. I can't let this continue to take in.
Right.
So now, okay, approach the person. Let them know that they've wronged you.
Right. Well, that's what Scripture says to do, Willie. That's why I noticed that a lot of people sit back and when you look at Mark chapter 11, Jesus says, okay, we understand. Everybody want to quote that, you shall say to this mountain, be thou removed, be thou cast into the sea, and not doubt in your heart. You shall have what you say. Therefore, whatsoever things you desire, when you pray, believe you receive them, you shall have them. That's 23 and 24. But then Jesus says, but wait up, we're not through here.
That's right.
Verse 25, he says, but if you have aught against someone, if you have trespass against someone, he says, leave those things right there at the altar. He says, and then go and get it right. Go and say, he says, now if you do not forgive, neither will your Father in heaven forgive you of your trespasses. So notice that we'll see a lot of people sitting back, well, Jesus forgave me for that. Jesus died for my sins. All this and that. Jesus removed himself from that equation. And he says, if you do not forgive, neither will your Father in heaven forgive you of your trespasses. And so what are the ramifications of unforgiveness? What are the things that we're suffering with? Somebody chose not to forgive. And so sooner or later, we got to come to, so whether we accept Christ as a believer, for those that you got all different types of religions, for those that go become a monk and they just go through that process, those that choose to convert over to Islam, everybody's seeking peace. Everybody that seeks for a higher power, peace or whatever. The key is, guess what? All of them say, you got to let that go. You got to let that go. So no matter what the belief system is from a faith perspective, and of course, we as this show and us, we believe in Christ, we believe in the Word of God, but there may be other listeners there that if you seek out higher power, you seek whatever, the first thing they teach you, you got to let that thing go. You got to forgive.
Yeah, forgiveness really is more for you than the other person.
Exactly.
Yeah, you got to learn how to let go, man. And a lot of us hold stuff, and that's why we can't move forward in a relationship. I love to tell people this here. You can't move forward going backwards at the same time. You're either going to go forward or you're going to go backwards.
Right.
You're either going to let it go or if you don't let it go, you can't grow.
Can you say it again? Say it again.
If you can't let it go, you can't grow. You can only grow if you let it go. If you hold on to it, you're not growing.
That's just like planting a seed.
You're not growing.
If you hold it in your hand and don't put it in the ground, it'll stay there.
Yeah, you can't grow if you don't let
That's
go.
pretty good now. That's why
you gotta let it go, man.
That's why you.
Look at Will.
Oh Lord, that was
You can't look at even the stars. Man.
So the thing about it is, like you say, if the universal principle of you reap what you sow is a universal principle, because as believers in Christ, we got to also understand that the scripture says He reigns on the just as well as the unjust.
No,
so therefore,
person.
So if you reap what you sow, well, if you carrying harboring unforgiveness, you're sowing anger, you're sowing resentment, you're sowing bitterness. That means, like you just said, Willie, when that seed goes in the ground, something coming up. It don't matter if it's thorns. It don't matter what. Something is coming up when that seed is planted. It's coming up. Some kind of harvest. Might not be nothing that we can all live off of, we can all eat. Might not be fruitful, but something is coming up. And the question is, what's coming up from your seed of planting unforgiveness?
That's incredible, because talking about planting, you reap what you sow more than you sow and later than you sow. Because what you plant now is not going to come up right now. You mentioned, you alluded this earlier. It's going to come up later, and then it's going to come up more than what you put out there.
Right.
It may not you be the recipient of what you planted, but your offspring may be.
Exactly.
Your family members may be.
Right.
So we got to be careful what we sow. Because I like to say it this way: we are all farmers. We planting something. Like you said, it could be something that we can live off of. It may be something we can't live off of. So we got to be very careful if what we are planting. So now, if we want forgiveness, we got to plant forgiveness.
Right.
We got to show mercy and compassion on things, of people. Not saying that what they're doing to us is right all the time.
Yeah.
We got to correct them. We got to let them know, hey, what you did bothered me. What you said bothered me.
Yeah.
I suggest that you not do that again.
Right.
You know, I was watching a show yesterday called Bad Dad Rehab. And what it was based upon the fathers not necessarily in the child's life in a more productive way. And what wound up happening near the end of the show is that they went to counseling, they were going to therapy. And what wound up happening near the end of the show is that they went to their children. The children now almost pretty much grown. Mm-hmm. There was a young one, about 8 years old, but all the other two was pretty much grown. But what happened is that they went into their child's life. They began to be a part of their life. The younger one didn't really understand about the forgiveness, but the older ones did. And so they sought the forgiveness of the older children because they understood, but they still were angry. They forgave and was able to move on. But so now, if we're not able to forgive what has happened to us in the past, then as Ron mentioned, we can't go anywhere. You mentioned some of the things that might happen to us if when we forgive. It lowers our blood pressure. It increases our immune system. It's just the opposite of what anger does to us. It improves sleep because, if you're angry, you can't really rest well because this is always on your mind. So when you release it, you improve your sleep. You're less distressed. You don't suffer from depression. And it also lowers your cholesterol. So we got beneficial health for forgiveness.
Yeah, exactly. And then the thing about it is this. Unforgiveness prevents you from loving unconditionally.
Yeah.
So
because we're still holding on to what offended us.
So you still holding. I know some people that have in the process of being pregnant were at a bad stage in their life. So dysfunctional childhood, broken abandonment and everything. Then now you're suffering from abuse, whatever, all this and that. And the whole time you're at a bad place in your life while you're pregnant. And once this child is born, for some particular reason, that child was the thorn in your side. That child was the reminder of your pain, your suffering. So next thing you know is now that child feels like they're your stepchild. You treat that child like they're a stepchild.
Every stepchild is not mistreated.
And I'm just saying that's just You
didn't hit a nerve, man.
No,
You didn't hit a
no, I'm
nerve.
just saying because
My
people do that.
iPhone, Willie,
People do that.
stepchild. No, my bad. You know, Willie quickly.
Willie quick say every
Quickly,
stepchild.
stepchild, this and that is not referring to every stepchild, but the notion of we saying you treated me like Cinderella, the stepsisters, the wicked
I know what
stepmother,
you're
and all
talking
that.
about. Go
Willie.
ahead, man.
So I'm just saying, but next thing you know is that child is raised, and that mother treats that child more negative.
Yeah, unforgiveness has a way of ruining future movement. It goes back to forward movement, forward thinking. And if you're not thinking forward, you're not moving forward.
Right.
Unforgiveness is staying in the past.
Yeah.
Everything that has happened, you living in the past. You can't.
Can I be hurt so bad that I can't forgive?
You can forgive. You choose not to forgive. Because and sometimes unforgiveness is a weapon of protection. Right. See, because if I don't forgive, I don't open myself up for pain no more. Right. Because if I hold this against you, that keeps me from loving you. Right. Check that out now. Because if I hold this, I can't love again. So if I open myself up, if I forgive, I place myself at a vulnerable state again. And if I'm vulnerable, I can be hurt. Right. But let me be clear with everybody that's listening. You can't love unless you're willing
to love the right way.
You can't be loved if you're not willing to allow yourself to be vulnerable in that relationship. Because if you're looking for love to be conditional, it's a conditional love. Love has to be unconditional.
So that's why
if it's going to be real
hurts.
love.
So that's why I said love hurts.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you don't think Christ on that cross hurt? Do you don't think that hurt it? That painful death and everything? That love hurt. Now notice, as
what he said.
He said hurt it.
It hurt it. It hurt it. That doesn't hurt. Bro, that thing, like in other words.
Urban radio.
We not willing to take certain levels of punishment and abuse, for our so-say loved ones. Yeah. No greater love than a man have than to lay down his life for a friend. That's what Christ did. But now notice, in regards to forgiveness, one of the first acts that Jesus did when he assembled the disciples together was restore. Meaning, he know Peter sold him out. Peter, man, I'll never deny you. Oh, man, you my dude, such as Peter, before the rooster crows, you're going to deny me 3 times. Man, I ain't going to deny you, bro. You my dude. I'm ready to die for you. Peter, the Bible says we know that he denied them 3 times. Yeah. And then notice Peter wasn't at the foot of the cross. He watched from a distance. So then he feeling all somber. He feeling all sad, all this and that. The first thing Jesus did, after he sit him down, he says, cook the fish for him. He tells Peter, hey, you love me? You my dude? Okay, I forgive you. Feed my sheep. He empowers Peter. He affirms him. So Jesus himself knew, if I don't let him know I've forgiven him and he my dude and I hold nothing against him, it will hinder my purposes for his life, for his ministry, for his everything.
You're right. What I've noticed too, but just before that part though, when they went into that room, he says, tell my disciples and Peter.
Right.
So that means, hey, Peter already know how he feel. He feeling some kind of way. Yeah. So tell him to come too. I want to see him too.
He my dude.
Yeah.
In other words, so that's what forgiveness does. To where, think about it, when our kids go out to school, they make a mistake. They didn't got in trouble. They got arrested. They got to go through community service or something. In their hearts, they feel, I let my parents down. And some way, somehow, especially their father, has to go and reaffirm that child and let them know, say, bro, you my dude. Hey, we can get through this.
That's wrong.
Like one thing I share, I let my son know, because I know you come from God and he just used me to bring you to the earth. I say, you can never do anything to make me more proud of the fact that God chose me to actually be your earthly father. I say, but remember, life is choices. I say, and I can never ever hold any choice that you make against you. If you choose to be a homeless person under the street, living under the bridge in Tent City, I come take you to lunch every Tuesday and Thursday. I come barbecue for y'all once a month or whatever. I just want you to understand, I'm not condoning that. I'm not saying you're going to make that choice, but I choose to love you in spite of any choice that you make.
Love is not conditional. When you make love conditional, it's a conditional love, man.
And it's not love.
Well, let's take a break here. Let's put a pin on that here, and I'm going to take a break here. But man, this is some good stuff here we're talking. So when we come back after break, we're going to get back into the conversation. You're listening to The Male Perspective, Real Talk for Men on 106liveradio.com.
Broadcasting live from Atlanta while serving the entire globe. It's the fastest growing radio on the web. It's 106liveradio.com.
Olivia from Washington. Laid off and trying to keep our little kids from realizing that mommy and daddy haven't eaten in a while.
Roger from California. I'm grateful we could afford our son's surgery. I'm nervous that now we can't really afford food.
Daniel from California. Choosing whether to pay the rent or pay to fix the car to get to work doesn't leave us with much at all. Now we can't even pay for meals.
Donna from Louisiana. The storm just hit, and we went from donating to the food bank to needing it.
Keisha from South Carolina. I've been skipping meals so my 2 kids can eat, but filling up on water doesn't really work.
Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Even though there's so much against us, you will see me choose to protect myself and my community from the coronavirus by wearing a face cover. And even with my face covered, you will see me making music and bringing light to all, no matter the time.
Join me in wearing a face covering
to help stop the spread of the coronavirus.
Because covering your face is one small act of kindness
that has the power to bring us together.
Not completing high school is more of a social thing than it was an academic thing. Even though all these years have passed, I still had that longing to have my diploma.
At age 30, Carissa finished her high school diploma.
If you're even considering getting your high school diploma, you can do it.
No one gets a diploma alone. If you're thinking of finishing your high school diploma, you have help. Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org. That's finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
What is dedication?
The thing that drives me every day as a dad is Dariana. We call him Day for short. Every day he's hungry for something, whether it's attention, affection, knowledge. And there's this huge responsibility in making sure that when he's no longer under my wing, that he's a good person. I want him to be able to sit back one day and go, we worked together, we did a good job.
That's dedication. Find out more at fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Hey, it's me, your cell phone. We need to talk about something serious. I know you love me. I know you like using me wherever you are, but I feel like this isn't working out when you're driving. I know you may think that it's possible to focus both on me and the road, but I just don't feel the same way. I think we should spend time away from each other when you're driving. It's for the best.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org, a message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
Download the free 106 Live Radio app where you can catch shows such as The Upper Room Sundays from 8 a.m. to 12 noon, The Male Perspective every second and fourth Sunday from 2 to 4 p.m., The Unspeakable Joy Conference every first and third Sunday from 2 to 4 p.m., The Morning Rise weekdays from 6 to 10 a.m., The Tanasha Gray Show weekdays from 10 to 2 p.m., The Epic Marriage Celebration Wednesdays from 10 to 2 p.m., The C. Harper Show Wednesday and Fridays from 4 to 6 p.m., Executive Producer Anthony Denard presents The Chef's Zone Wednesday and Foreign Matters, Saturdays from 12 to 2 p.m., and Cece's World, Saturdays from 2 to 4 p.m. Catch our channels 106 Inspiration, 106 R&B and Throwbacks, and the Epic Radio channel. Remember, download the app to bridge the gap at 106liveradio.com.
Were you thinking of changing your marketing strategy? 106 Live Radio is the solution you need to promote your goods and services. We are offering special advertising rates on our fast-growing radio network. We can also help you create an audio commercial or a website banner that fits your business needs. It is just that simple. Visit our website at 106liveradio.com for details.
Bringing you the best shows and music 24/7 on your favorite radio. It's 106liveradio.com.
Broadcasting live from Atlanta while serving the entire globe. It's the fastest growing radio on the web. It's 106liveradio.com.
Olivia.
I'm Jason Gray, and I'm inviting you to listen to The Male Perspective. Real talk for men on the second and fourth Sundays, 2 to 4 p.m. on the 106 Live Radio platform. Welcome back to The Male Perspective, Real Talk for Men. It's your host, Jason Gray. Co-host Willie LeGrand Jr. We got our panelists. We got Don E. Miller. We got Ron Robinson in the house. Man, we are just having a ball here, just going at it with this conversation there with anger, forgiveness, and we're talking about forgiveness. But I'm going to pass the mic on to Don because somebody had reached out to us and have a question. Go ahead, Don.
Yeah, I have a question. The question is, what about the parents that strive to be more of their child's friend? They could be tiptoeing around addressing feelings of any sorts. What are your thoughts about that? Well, my thought of it is you're a parent, not a friend. So you need to be a parent because through parenting, friendship may come, but your first priority is to be a parent. And, you know, issues need to be talked about. You shouldn't be tiptoeing around issues in your home. I mean, you're the priest of the home or the priestess of the home. I mean, it's your home. Right. And so your children shouldn't have you at a place where you're scared to talk about something. Right. You're the parent. So you need to be the parent. It's not about us being friends. It's about us being parent. Now, when you're an adult and you're out of my home and we can laugh and joke about things, we should be able to do that anyway. I firmly believe some of the problems we have with our children is that we neglected being the parent. And I believe that we wait later in age to try to get our kids to talk. I believe you should have such a relationship with your children that you can talk to them. You don't have to be forceful. You don't have to be physically aggressive with them. You should be able to develop and have that dialogue. You can't wait to 18 to become a parent. You can't wait to be 16 to become a parent. And some children don't grow up with their parents. So, you know, but we're talking about those who live with their parents, and some parents haven't grown up with their parent. Right. I had a statement said more times parents grow up with their children. Well, you do have this thing, babies raising babies, but I believe sometimes we have forgotten some principles, some guiding principles to keep us moving as a group of people, as a family. And if you do not know how to parent, get help. There's help out there. There's right. Books out there. There's families that's doing it right. Everybody's not treating it in a negative manner. Right. Everybody's not trying to be a friend. There are people that are doing parenting good. And there's no really handbook. It's just a lot of experiences that you have. But you know what's working. There's trial and error. There's some things you're doing wrong. There is some things you're doing right. Look at the things you're doing right and continue to build off of the right. Stop looking at what you're doing. You can do some wrong stuff, but build off of the right.
Right. So this is the thing. I think those type of parents, you may have a situation where you're being your child's friend based on what was done to you or what wasn't done to you, as it relates to how you were raised, whether you were raised in that abusive environment where internally you just made a bitterroot judgment. And so now you find yourself more so wanting to operate like, I'm trying so hard not to be like my mother and father that I just want to, the compassion I desired, I want to exhibit it to my child. And so next thing you know is, you know, you don't want nobody yelling at your child. You don't want, it doesn't take all that. Come on now, we holding hands. Oh yeah. You know, daddy, your best friend, mommy, your best friend. And like you say, next thing you know is it gets to a point where certain disciplines, the child, as they get older, cause you know, little boys we're gonna pimp the system. You know, we're gonna sit back and be like,
urban radio.
You know, we gonna sit back and say, oh, so I can daddy gonna do what mama said. Mama really raised a fit and everything like that. So y'all forgive me for my ebonics and everything. You know,
Ain't nothing wrong with that, man.
Ain't nothing wrong with I forgot I'm working with the person with the PhD over
I ain't got a PhD yet, man. I'm working on it, man. I ain't out it yet, man. I just said urban radio, man. Ain't this urban radio?
Do I detect the languor?
Are you gonna forgive him, Ron? You gonna forgive him, Ron?
Man, bump that, man. No, I ain't forgiving you. Want to hold it against me every time I say something ebonically speaking, bro.
I just said.
So I think raising, you know, like you say, parents that's raising their kids to be friends. Now, I think you just gotta be able to say no. This still the boundary.
That's it. Keyword, Ron. You just said boundary.
Boundary. You know what? I can raise you with compassion. I can raise you with understanding. I can raise you to talk transparent. But here's boundaries. Once again, bro, you know, like there are times where I've had to address to my son, hey, I got a question. What would you do as a man that talking crazy to your old lady? He said, man, I have to check that dude, daddy. What you think I'm about to do to you talking to your mama crazy? Because that's my woman. So now you didn't cross the line because you're not just disrespecting your mama. And now God, you know what God says, but now man to man, you disrespecting my woman. So now you cool and we good, but you crossed the line. Say that to your mama one more time.
What's the repercussion?
The repercussions is if I choose to remain in that environment and go with what's familiar in my bloodline, then see,
so he might see some hands.
I got a choice.
Ron might be getting arrested in about a week. If y'all see,
he got bond. He got bond.
I
got bond money.
Cool. That's it. Always on there. So all I'm saying is a choice, right?
Right.
So it's a choice to set boundaries with your child. We see parents that we see them little shows. We saw that one on Dr. Phil where the boy just slapped his mama, all this and that. That couldn't have been certain cultures, just so you know, once again. So it's still choices as a parent. I don't care if you were 15. It's a process. It's still choice because now you got to know that it's time to grow up real fast. But at the same time, you can't let this child get out of line so to the point because then they become a menace
to society
versus a minister to society.
Wow. I mean, I'm loving this here. Again, this is real talk for men, you know, male perspective here. We're getting real here.
Yeah.
I mean, and boundaries are very important. And you don't want to cross those boundaries, but you have to redefine those boundaries time and time again. Yep. You know, and as men, you know, we have to enforce those boundaries. We can't, you know, we can't let the boundaries be blurred because we want to maintain a friendship with our children. I mean, our children is our children, no matter what.
Yeah, our children.
Right. And I think so. For instance, I think it's in stages. Of course, as they develop, each stage you set new boundaries. I mean, that's the same in friendships and everything. Okay, so now, but I always say from my experience, 0 to 5. That's when you laying that foundation. Whatever 0 to 5 gonna let you know what you're gonna have to do or not have to do after the on up. That way, that boundaries is set, meaning that if that child at 3 years old, 4 years old is at school at daycare acting out, when daddy show up, hey, let's go. Come on, let me go outside and talk to you, whatever. Once you lay that foundation, and once again, not abuse, we're not promoting or condoning abuse and everything like some of us were just subjected to, you know, but it's just the fact that once you lay that foundation and that boundaries at an early age, comprehending, well, you know, they just a child. Okay. That child eventually, sooner or later, know, mama ain't gonna do nothing. You know, like one time, my son, once again, said him and his teammates, they're having a dialogue and said, you know, what will mama do, what daddy do? And, you know, we got to him, he said, oh, you know, my mom, she probably gonna be yelling from upstairs. She really ain't coming down there to see if I'm doing my homework or not on this game or whatever. What your daddy gonna do? You got like, he'll throw me to a wall. In other words, now at 16, he realized my daddy will still throw me through a wall. Like if I crossed the line.
Wait a minute.
You know,
wait a minute. You hear what he just said?
Wait a minute. Now you just went the anger part that was No.
I use that. I use it as if you're intimidated and you actually think negative that I'm gonna do something negative. I let you believe that.
I like that.
I ain't never did
good.
that to you.
Nice
I
comeback.
let you think that. In other words, I've been there just like this. I've been at restaurants where I'm like the only one of my culture in that environment, and I say, "Excuse me, sir, is it possible we can get a seat?" At that moment, he just completely interpreted that I'm about to flip out. I got first class service. If you believe I'm gonna flip out and it works to my advantage, that you listen, okay, I don't have no problem with that.
You know what I'm hearing? I'm hearing a man that's confident about himself.
Yeah. That, whereas others' interpretation, back to how do you perceive me? Now you may perceive me as, I believe Ron gonna have the police over there. Next thing you know, Don sitting back and like, let me get his child name and number. I might have to reach out to this child. I might have to reach out to this child because I believe Ron. Ron snapping.
Ron gonna be coming in for a one-on-one session in about a week.
Ron flipping table legs over
I
there.
got you.
What about your childhood trauma, Ron?
Yeah, right.
What did you go through as a kid?
Did you forgive?
So,
We got to forgive.
Yeah, exactly. So exactly, and that's the thing about it. I forgive, so that's why I'm able to raise you appropriately. I'm able to love you, and at the same time, I'm able to allow you to be free with your thoughts, with how you see things need to be done, and give me your opinion. And then I want to gauge it to see, okay, let's weigh the pros and cons of your opinion.
Okay.
It's good stuff, man.
yeah.
Consequences and choices.
That's true. And the thing too, we got to tie this in also we tied it into the male, to the men, because men go through these same things these children go through. What everybody does, nobody's exempt from their. And what's really interesting is that some people don't really care about consequences. They don't. I've heard that before. People that, whatever the consequences are, I deal with them when they get here.
They don't think through it. They don't think. They're not thinking.
So is that an immature mind?
Yeah.
Or that's somebody that don't care?
It could be both.
But
It could be both. It could be, I'm just not concerned because, that old saying, I bring you in here, I take you out. That used to be played all the time. And you don't have the right to take nobody's life, man.
Right. We weren't designed to do that.
You don't have a right to do that. I mean, but it sounds good. It sounds strong. It sounds in a way to scare you, to make you respect me versus you just willingly respect me. That's a good fear tactic. If I take you in here, if I brought you in the world, I take you out. Yeah, that sound good, but it's not good. And it really don't sound good. That's a fear fact. That's a fear piece.
That's true.
I want to put fear in you to recognize if you do something, this is what's going to happen. That's a fear tactic.
There's a child driving his car down the street. His radio is loud, or he's hollering out the window at a friend that's walking down the street. Police comes by, they see them interacting, and they take it a different kind of way. So they pull the guy over that's cruising, talking to his friend on the side of the road. They take it, they tell the guy, ask him, what is he doing? And then the fellow said, hey, we just hollering at one another, we just talking to one another. Police get angry, pulls a gun out. Fella he makes some kind of hand gesture. The guy gets shot and killed.
So
now there's anger. The family is angry because their child got killed over something that was stupid.
Well,
now here it is. How do you forgive? How does the parent forgive? How does the parent forgive this particular person?
Well, this is the thing. That's a process, and everybody has their own process. You can't rush you can't rush no one's healing. You can't, pain is manifested in different ways, but the absolutes, the truth of the matters is still what it is. Unforgiveness will eat you alive. Unforgiveness will cause you to become stagnant in life. So the rules of the consequences of unforgiveness don't change.
Absolutely.
Those rules don't change. It's now, how do we go about rectifying the situation? How do we go about, so now, did you take that pain and turn it into where you became an advocate for not just police brutality and injustice and changing that, but changing and making it how police officers are trained when they're not familiar with African American culture, as far as we use hand gestures when we talk, we say what's up, we express with our emotions, and no, we're not being a threat to you. It's just the fact, but you've been programmed also, and you were raised to believe that this is showing I'm belligerent and I'm becoming aggressive, all because I express my culture. I express with my hands. I express with my body language. So therefore, you may become the parent that pushes this into legislation. So therefore, all police officers go through mandatory training on understanding the ins and outs of African American culture, Hispanic culture, as it relates to what does this mean, the hand gestures, yada, especially when you clearly see there's no weapon present.
Now, with that being said, all your gestures, all your advocacy, have you forgiven that particular person?
That's on the individual.
That's on the individual, but also we have to be competent on both ends with officers. With it's a piece that we have. What police officer does, and same thing is what's happening in various communities. That cultural piece that he's talking about, because you have both situations going on. You have the situation with the police officer. You have the situation with the young man in the community. You have a little bit of everything. So again, I believe more dialogue has to go on with all parties. When I say community involvement, that's police, that's parents, that's school, that's church. Everybody got to talk more instead of reacting. Again, it's back to that emotional piece. Do I react based on my emotions, or do I manage my emotions?
So
both ways.
I'm holding my anger. I'm really becoming bitter. But yet, forgiveness, you're saying, is based upon the individual that's given it?
The person need to forgive, because you holding something. That person who was murdered or whatever, they're gone. They're gone. So you keeping the anger. What is the anger doing for you? Is it productive? Is it counterproductive?
Well, it's bringing bitterness. It's not productive.
That's my point. So
but when then what this person doesn't see that. They just feel the pain.
They see it.
Well, they're not recognizing it then.
They recognize it. They choose not to. It's a choice.
Well, think of it this way. Unforgiveness is like you drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Just
right.
Well,
wow. You drinking poison and expecting. Yeah, because you have a choice. See, we all keep giving people excuses not to do what they ultimately have to do. Whether you do it today, whether you do it next week, whether you do it a year from now, eventually you're going to have to let it go. It's almost like in a marriage situation, and the man mess up and the woman say, I'm going to hold this against him. You can't hold that man in that position forever. You got to either make a choice. Hey, I'm going to work through this situation with my husband, and we're going to keep this marriage, or I'm going to go away. Same thing. You have to let it go. You can choose to hold on to it, but if you hold on to it, you will not grow. That's on any given situation, whether it's a marriage, whether it's a violent situation that's taking place, whether it's parents that abuse the kid, whether it's any kind of thing. You have to eventually say, hey, I got to let this go, and for me to grow. For me to go on with my life, because that person is gone. Even when suicide happened, suicide can be a thing where somebody really hurting you from the grave because you feel guilty about what they did.
Right.
You gotta let that go. Sometime, and I say this to the audience, sometimes you may have to go to the graveyard to some of those people who have hurt you and stand by their grave and say, hey, I forgive you.
Mm-hmm.
I forgive you. I gotta let it go so I can grow, so I can go on with my life.
Anger is a choice. Forgiveness is a choice. We have to choose which one we want. We know the detriments of holding anger. We know the benefits of giving forgiveness. They were both mentioned at this time that we've been sitting here. Now, I guess the choice is up to us. Which one means more to us?
Let me share this piece. We say hurt people, heal people, heal people.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You can't heal me unless you've been healed.
Right.
Say that. So if you heal people, we got to think about healing, because what we've been through, we got to go through to get to sometimes. We got to go through some things to get to some things. But at the same time, if we're going to heal people, we done been through some hurt. So heal people. So we got to be about healing, man. It ain't about hurting no more. I done been through some, guarantee you, every one of us in the room done been through some serious hurt and some serious things that could have caused us to say, man, I ain't going to never forgive nobody. But I recognize some of those hurts that I've been through put me to the position to where I can use that to heal somebody.
Right.
That's what it's about for me.
You know, and before, I'm going to say this right quick and then we'll move on. All things work together for good for them that love God and are called according to his purpose. We may not see the good in it at the moment, but everything has some good in it somewhere down the line. We just don't recognize or know what it is.
What I like to tell people is the fact that I sit back and it's like, okay, God being that God is all knowing. God knew everything that was going to transpire in your life, especially 0 to 18, whatever happened as a child. And he still chose to let that be your mother and father. So now I put the onus back on God that you have to supply the necessary strength for me to forgive, for me to walk in wholeness because of the fact that you actually knew I was going to go through this. You knew that I would be subjected to this here abuse or whatever. So therefore, you had a plan. You had a plan through it all. So I depend on that plan to manifest. I depend on that aspect of your creating me and choosing to let me go in this route, because we say all life, we all come from God. We were created in his image and his likeness. We ain't got no trace of the devil being able to actually create a child. You might have some ways and some tendencies that make you be like, boy, who you come from? But when y'all know that, so therefore, God, you being all knowing, you knew this child was going to go through rape, abuse, molestation, violence, all of that, bullying. You have a plan. So I choose to now seek and lead others to follow that plan and put a demand on God to let that plan manifest.
Wow, that's awesome. Hey, we're going to take a quick little break here, and then when we come back, we're going to do the God's perspective. Willie's going to give us the godly perspective on this here. So we're going to take a quick break here. Stay tuned. You're listening to 106 Live Radio, Real Talk for Men, and we're going to take a quick break.
We got.
Did you know that men on average die almost 5 years earlier than women? Part of the reason is that men are more reluctant to go to the doctor, according to menshealthmonth.org. In fact, studies show that women go to the doctor twice as much as men. It's important to see your doctor regularly and schedule annual exams. Here are some screening tests: abdominal blood pressure, colorectal cancer, depression, diabetes type 2, lipid disorders, and STDs. For more information, go to unicityhealthcare.com.
Broadcasting live from Atlanta while serving
Forgive as God has forgiven us. The thing is, right now, we have a choice. We are creatures of habit sometimes. God said, forgive, and we shall be forgiven. If we are bearing one another's burden, if we are allowing or putting up or being patient with one another, as God has been patient with us, because Lord knows we have done things and so many times that has, I'm sure, had him shaking his head, wondering what is wrong with my child. But God had mercy upon us. He was patient with us. If we forgive, then he will forgive us. That's one of the mandates that says, if you forgive, then your Father which is in heaven will forgive you. If someone has wronged us or made us angry, it is up to us to go to them, to allow them an opportunity to say what the problem was or what the issue was with you. And then you have that same opportunity to then tell them, I understand, I didn't mean to hurt you. I didn't mean what I said to offend you. I forgive you. Or they will forgive you, or you forgive them also. Remembering that hurt causes pain. It causes bitterness, stress, and anguish to our bodies and our minds, and even to our relationships. But what God wants us to do is to forgive one another. Not being trampled over, but to forgive in love. Show unconditional love as he did for us. His love was so unconditional that he gave his only begotten son, Jesus Christ, to die on the cross, that we would have eternal life and be forgiven of our sins. So make the conscious choice. Make the loving choice. Be angry, but don't sin. Forgive that God may forgive you, and show love one towards another as he has showed love unto us. That is the perspective.
Wow, thank you, Willie. We had such an awesome day on the show. You're listening to 106liveradio.com, listening to the Male Perspective, Real Talk for Men. And fellas, this was a really, really good conversation. And, before we close out the show, I'd like to, let our listeners know where they can reach out to you guys. So you guys go ahead and plug yourself.
Yeah, so you guys can follow me on Facebook at Ron Robinson, or you go Rev Ron Speaks. I go live every Thursday night at 7:15 with a very live, transparent Bible study. So there's Rev Ron Speaks on Facebook, and also on Instagram, Rev Ron Speaks, REVRON Speaks, SPEAKS. So that's how you guys can follow me. Tune in, go catch the videos. Let's grow together. That's what we're here to do.
You can reach me, Don Miller, at dmiller@theeffect.net. You can also listen to me live on Love 860 AM here in Atlanta on Tuesday night from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. You can also go to TuneIn Radio, iHeart Radio, and the Love 860 app and download that. Listen to me live there. You can also go to my podcast. It's called Men Making Better Decisions. Men Making Better Decisions. Women can listen to it too, because might be some good tips in there you can use in your relationship. But Men Making Better Decisions on any podcast platform.
All right. Again, this has been a good show. We were talking about anger or forgiveness. And again, you can catch us here every second and fourth Sunday on 106liveradio.com, the Male Perspective, Real Talk for Men. And, I think just like we say, all good things must come to an end. And, we got we got the Power Names coming up. It's a fabulous show. Check it out. And we're just going to, sign off. And, until next time, see you guys later.